Hi, everyone. I hope you're doing well. My name is Tanmay Singh. I am the co-founder of Faith Career, a boutique career management firm. We specialize in helping aspirants to study abroad and in India at highly ranked institutions. If you wish to study either abroad or in India, please comment below, reach out to us via Instagram or WhatsApp, and we would be very glad to help you. Today, we would be talking to Rohan Pratap Singh. Rohan has received an offer letter from Kellogg School of Management at Northwestern University, which is in the US, to pursue the one-year MBA program that starts in June. He has kindly agreed to share his experience, advice, and more. Let's find out. Hi, Rohan. Thank you for taking the time to talk to all of us today. I really appreciate it. To begin with, could you please tell us a little bit about yourself and about your candidature?
Right, thanks, Tanmay. Very happy to do this. And yeah, so I did my graduation from IIT Delhi, graduated in 2014, and worked a couple of years in analytics, and then pursued my Indian MBA, which was from IIM Calcutta. And post that, I worked for a couple of years in consulting with BCG in South Africa and India. And then I moved to Cast 24 in a strategic and operations role. For 1 year, I worked with them in India. And for the last couple of years, I built the business with the team in Thailand. So this is like my brief career journey. And what pushed me to do pursue a second MBA is that while working in abroad in South Africa and for the last couple of years in Thailand, I felt that a global career is something which I aspire for. And at this point of time, I felt that, I've had enough experience to basically, go for something like Kellogg, and I will get a lot more out of the MBA as well. So because for the first time, I did the MBA after just 2 years of experience, and I did not know business like I do now. And the second thing is that from an IIM, I think the classroom is mostly composed of Indians, but at Kellogg you have the people from all over the world. So that was also one reason to have be in a global classroom and learn from different people from across the globe.
Right. And now, I would also want to kind of learn more about this. Would you be comfortable in telling our viewers about the application process which you followed for the one-year MBA program at Kellogg?
Right. So I think the 1 year program has a similar process. So you essentially need a GMAT score, and then you need 4 different essays on which, and that has every essay has some kind of special characteristic which you need to bring out, but mostly it's on Kellogg values. So it's like leadership, any particular achievements you've had till now, and any future goals which you may have, and all of those should combine into a great story. The second part of the process is that Kellogg calls almost 85 to 90% people for an interview. And essentially, that interview is also very conversational. So they basically ask you very similar questions, what you've already known, but kind of a second order questioning that, why this career path, why just now, why Kellogg, and subsequently. So the good thing about Kellogg is that they look at your application not just from an essays perspective, but a holistic application, which is your GMAT scores, your international experience, your experience in what kind of sectors you've worked in, and of course your interview. So all of those combined will give you the final admit or not.
Okay, sounds good. So, could you please also tell us if there were interviews, and if yes, so you just said that almost 85% of the candidates are invited for an interview, right? How
Yes.
was your interview process, and was it only live, which means one-to-one with a person, or did you also have to submit some recorded responses? after which you were invited for a live interview. Did that happen, or was it just live interview?
So it was a live interview only. I did not submit any video responses. It can be with the AdCom member or it can be with a Kellogg alum. In my case, it was with a Kellogg alum, and it happened in person. So it can happen in person and it can happen virtually. In my case, the interviewer asked me that if I'm comfortable doing it in person, and I love doing it in person interviews. So yeah, that's what my process was like.
Right, right. And so how did you prepare for that interview after submitting the application? Were there some steps that you took to kind of prepare yourself for that interview?
Yes, so one is that I reviewed my essays really well. So I knew my story well, but then you mention a lot of things during the essays when you write them, but you don't remember everything. So it's important to go through the essays really well. It's important to also prepare with other students who have given the interview. So in my case, I got help from a couple of round one, 2 year admits who had faced the interview. So they took a couple of mock interviews with me, and that kind of helped me to refine my answers a little bit, because in some cases you may have a very good answer in your head, but when you speak it out, it may not sound very coherent. And that helped me to make my answers, laser sharp. And I think that really helped because Kellogg has a certain pattern of questions. It won't ask you like something really out of the blue. So it won't ask you like general knowledge questions or, very very out of the obscure questions. It will be very, very profile based. It will be on your aspirations. It will be on the leadership aspects you have shown in the past. But all of those should combine really well to bring out your personality and your characteristic. Kellogg is a school which really values personality. They want to have people of a certain background, not particularly background, but a certain kind of personality. And just to give you some snippets about it, so
Sure.
they like people who are collaborative, people who have shown that leadership is not just asking people to do something, but also getting your hands dirty.
Yes.
People who are low ego and high impact. These are some of the things which come into mind. So they really value this, and they will figure it out through the process which they have.
Right. And so when you say the process, do you mean only the interview process or the essays as well?
Everything. So even the essays are designed in a way that your personality will come out, and whatever you write in that essay, the adcom really reads each and every bit of it, because you will see that a lot of questions are designed in a way that you cannot just write it in like you sit down on one day. You have to really think about it. So I had to spend different days, and I had to spend on each essay. Like I did not write 2 essays in one day also. So I had to spend like some bit of time to figure out, okay, what do I want to say in this? What part of my career do I want to bring it out? And what value of Kellogg is it really
resonating with?
Yeah, which value is it resonating with, or is it connecting with? So in that way, if you think about your career or your program which you're going for and the essay which you're writing, I think that really helps.
Right. And now, since we are talking about essays and interview, let's kind of focus a little bit on interviews. Could you please tell us the questions that were asked to you during the Kellogg MBA interview, if you recall them? I mean, it's okay if you don't recall all of them. Even if you recall some of them, that's perfectly all right.
Yeah, so I think I recall not all of them, but a couple of them I can share. So one of the interview questions which I felt was a very good question as well, and I feel that that really got me thinking as well, was how did you resolve a conflict at work when and that conflict is not with you, it's between two of your team members. So when you are in a leadership position, so I led sales for my startup in Thailand for a good 1.5 years.
Right.
And I was handling a team of 660 odd people. So that's why I think that question also came up, that when you're handling a team that big, there are bound to be conflicts.
Yes.
So how did you resolve that conflict? I think that was one question which I really liked. The second question was that the second question which I remember was that why particularly you chose Kellogg to do this MBA, and
Mhm.
how does Kellogg fit into your journey? So you really had to connect what you have done till now and what you want to do in the next 4 5 years,
Mhm.
and you have to connect that and how Kellogg makes you more ready for what you want to do. So I think those two questions are something which I remember.
Mhm.
Apart from that, I think um, yeah, nothing. Sorry,
No,
I'm
that's
not
fine.
able to remember anything.
That's
Yeah,
fine. That's fine. I think the second question is in particular also very important from the business school's perspective, because they want
right.
to understand if, so when whenever Rohan comes here, would he be able to make the best use of Kellogg's resources and then eventually get
Right,
what he wants to, right? So
right,
they
right,
also want to assess that. They also want to understand that, which is exactly why they raised this question in the very first place. They also want to understand if you are someone who has thought about why you are investing your time, energy, and resources in an expensive degree such as an MBA, right?
right.
Because,
This,
sorry, please go on. Please
yeah,
go.
yeah. There's one question which I remember right now as well is, um, so they also asked me that, have you thought about of, what do you want to do at Kellogg? Like not just after
Yeah.
it, but at Kellogg, do you want to be a part of something? So one is, I've I had actually mentioned that I want to move to a PE and VC role. So
Hmm.
I said that I want to like move to, I want to be part of the PVC pathway, PVC club.
Hmm.
But I also mentioned a couple of courses which I had researched on. So that I think really helped, because the interview had actually done those courses, and the interview actually advised me that this course is really good. You should really go ahead with this one. It will
Hmm.
give you a lot of insight. The professor which teaches has had been a partner at a PE firm in the US, so you'll get a lot of practical benefit out of it as well. And I think that really helped me, because I had researched before, not just for the interview, but when I was applying, that which school gives me the best platform to move into that role.
Right, right, right. Yeah, I think being specific always helps, because it also kind of helps the interviewer or the adcom in general understand how is it that Rohan would find success at our school. As I said, that what
Right,
resources or what is it that you want to do at Kellogg, right, during your time here,
right,
right? Good, perfect. Sounds good to me. Now, everyone knows that the one-year MBA program at Kellogg is very competitive, right? Now, according to you,
right,
what were your unique selling points? What were your differentiators? What is it that you think helped you stand out?
right, right. I think one is, because interview is such a big part of the process, we don't know how much percentage they assign to it. But
Hmm.
preparing well for the interview, researching well on what you really want to do after, and what do you really want to get out of the MBA at the program, that really helps. So being prepared for the interview, because you will get an interview. Like most of the people do get an interview, and you can stand out there because you're getting a chance to really portray your personality. So no matter what is your GMAT score, what's your background,
Hmm.
one is that you prepare really well for the interview, do mock interviews, do a lot of research about the school. That is part one. The second thing I think which helped me out was the international experience which I had, and the leadership experience which I had. So when you apply, if you have led teams before, I think that really helps, because with an MBA you are aspiring to go up the ladder,
Yes.
and if you've already done that,
Hmm.
it gives you some kind of leverage, because you have already handled teams and you know some bit of team handling. You've handled team dynamics, you've done people management.
Hmm.
So that really helped me. And if you've done it in a in a foreign setting, so I had actually worked with a South African client in when I was working for the Boston Consulting Group,
Hmm.
and when I was in Thailand, I worked with local community over there, so that I think stood out.
Hmm.
um, the third bit was that, you know, because my exposure was with BCG, which is a top consulting firm,
Yeah.
I think that was also one of the spikes which I had in my resume. Now, I'm not sure how much weightage do they give to that, but I think that when it's just a brand name, but then what it signals is that you have been a top performer, and that's why you got into BCG. And when you get into BCG, in the first 2 years, you get a lot of exposure in different projects. So I worked for 4 different clients in 3 different industries,
Mhm.
and I was able to switch from one industry to the other seamlessly and understood deeply, and that actually helped me make the switch to the next startup which I went to. So I think that in that way, that really helps. Um, the other part was, no matter what your profile is, having a thought out story. So I really thought about that, from point A to point B, what was my motivation? So from analytics to consulting to startup and then to Kellogg, right? So what are my key motivations to do that? And what really is, so you have to have a why and a so what to each step you're taking. That
Mhm.
makes you stand out, like, because you sound very thoughtful, and you also sound that you really think about when you take a decision. You don't just take a decision based on, okay, this is a good school and hence I want to go there.
Yeah.
Not just that.
Mhm.
So I think that really helps, but this is like profile agnostic. Everyone should do this, but yeah, this is, I think these are a few things which I think stood out for me.
Right. Sounds good to me. Now, Rohan, which major and pathway are you planning to opt for at Kellogg? Because, uh, you know, our viewers might be interested in what you want to do, right? And so your story would both motivate and inspire them, right? So, uh,
Right.
and regardless of the pathway that or major that you wish to go for, um, do you think that those skills would help you do what you want to do in the future? Like, do you think that they're going to help you in some way in what you eventually do?
Right. So I think this is one of the major considerations when I was choosing the program, and I will opt for the PEVC pathway, as
Mhm.
I said before, because, and there's a very solid reason for that, because Kellogg has a very streamlined program for someone who wants to do a PEVC pathway. Reason being that they allow you in the last 2 terms to essentially tailor your program accordingly. So not only courses, but they have a San Francisco immersion program in
Mhm.
which you can actually, do some practical work for venture capital firms which come on the campus actually, right?
Mhm.
So you get that practical exposure as well,
Mhm.
and you work on different courses. So there are certain prerequisites which you need to do in the first 2 terms to qualify for that,
Mhm.
and essentially complete your pathway through that internship if you get, or doing a PEVC lab. So
Mhm.
there are multiple ways in which you can just tailor your experience to actually land up a role. So even if I don't land up a role directly out of Kellogg, I
Mhm.
would still have, like, good enough practical experience and learning from, different kind of professors who have actually been in the industry. So that gives me a good platform to even get a role even later in my career.
Mhm.
So using this, this was my consideration when I was going for Kellogg, and this was one solid reason that I want to go for the PEVC pathway.
Right. Sounds good. Sounds good. Okay. Now, let's so this was enough about Kellogg, right? Let's take a step back
Right.
and help others understand the MBA journey. So, if you're comfortable in sharing, which other schools did you apply to, and eventually, what motivated you to select Kellogg among the ones that you got admits to?
Right. Yeah, so I applied to NCR, I applied to LBS, both were in Europe. Um, in the US, I only applied for 1 year programs, which I was, eligible for. So I applied for the Goizueta Business School,
And
Emory.
yeah.
I applied for the USC Marshall program, and I applied for the Kellogg. So I applied to total 5 schools. I
Right.
was waitlisted at NCR. I did not get an interview invite from LBS. I got an admit from Emory, and I got an admit from Kellogg. So
Right.
natural choice. I chose Kellogg then.
Right. And so would you say that your motivation to pursue PEVC was the primary factor why you selected Kellogg? Would you say that?
I think one is, of course, the brand name and the kind of people you interact with. I actually interacted with people who had been in the 1 year program 2 years back, 3 years back. So I interacted with different alumni of even like USC Marshall, Emory Goizueta, and Kellogg. And I felt that I connected the best with Kellogg, with Kellogg alums.
Yeah.
The PVC thing came slightly later when I got the admit. Of course, I knew that if I get into Kellogg, I will do the PVC pathway because I had researched before that. But then it kind of got solidified because Kellogg is one of the few schools which has like some kind of streamlined process to help you get an exposure to the industry, which is very closed in that sense. So that was my consideration. But yeah, I think in my case, the choice was very simple. That Kellogg brand name and the kind of interactions I've also had with different people, I felt the most comfortable with Kellogg folks, and I felt that I gel with them the most,
Mhm.
and I would thrive in that community a lot more than I would anywhere else.
Yeah. I think so. I recently interacted with someone who would be heading to IESE Spain, and she told me exactly the same thing. So she received admits from other highly ranked schools within Europe, right, in the UK as well. However, she is not going to attend those schools. She would be going to IESE simply because of what you briefly mentioned. You said that you were able to kind of establish a stronger repo, and you were also able to gel well with alums from Kellogg,
Right,
which is also one of the motivating factors for you to select that school, right?
right,
And I also firmly believe that, if a school is if a school has community in its backbone, then the alumni and current students are able to support prospective students in a very strong way, right? And I think that
right,
is probably what you experienced at Kellogg as well, which is what
right.
kind of intensified your proclivity to go to that school instead of Emory Goizueta, right?
Correct.
Okay, perfect. Now, we'll quickly wrap up the session by asking your do's and don'ts. So, could you please tell us your final do's and don'ts for the Kellogg 1 year MBA aspirant? And you can share any three do's, any three don'ts. Or if you have more, you're very welcome
Sure.
to share them as well.
Sure. So I think I'll first share the do's. One is that start your essays early. They will take a lot of time. Give them a lot of thought, and think about at each step, and get a lot of feedback from different folks, not just people whom you're comfortable with, and be open to feedback. So that is one.
Hmm.
Second is try if you're an Indian aspirant, please try and get a very good GMAT score because by very good I mean 730 plus.
Hmm.
Reason being that Indian students Kellogg, if you see the median GMAT at Kellogg, it is one of the highest. It is even higher than HSW.
Hmm.
I think this time around Stanford or Wharton had similar uh, median GMAT score. So that is one. But if you think that you need more time because you have work commitments, please start a little early in the GMAT process. The third is please try and apply in round one. I applied in round two.
Hmm.
Not advisable.
Hmm.
Gives you a lot of stress. And things are very tight in terms of timelines because this program starts in summer
Hmm.
and you get your results in March. So there's a lot of things you need to do between March and June, and sometimes things are not in your control. So these are my do's. Don'ts. I feel that I kind of being derived from my do's itself. That if you're applying for the Kellogg 1 year, have a very solid reason of why you will not apply for Kellogg 2 year, right? So in because Kellogg has four, so Kellogg has a triple M, Kellogg has an MBAI, Kellogg has a 2 year program and a 1 year program. So out of these four, please do attend webinars, which Kellogg generally has. Gives you a lot of perspective about the school. There are alums which talk about their experiences in different programs. Please attend. webinars of different programs as well. For example, I attended Triple M webinar, NBAI webinar to understand what do these programs entail. So don't just sit back and say, okay, I've done my research. Keep doing your research even when you're writing your essay. So think about everything in parallel process, not just in a series. Now, don't be bogged down by outside noise. So when I say outside noise is that sometimes you'll say that Kellogg is a little you'll feel a little opaque about the process. Reason being that because you will not know after because everyone gets the interview, you don't know if your profile really stood out, right? So it's a little different from other schools. Don't be worried about that. Just give your best in each of the domains that you have, and forget about how you wrote your essays, forget about how you did your GMAT. If you're applying, just go all in. And the last would be just take a lot of feedback and don't shy away and don't sit just assuming everything. I have known people who have very not very low GMATs but relatively lower GMATs getting in, and you never know what profile or what part of your profile stands out from different candidates, because you don't know what's the class going to look like, what kind of people are applying. All of those things are not in your control. But I cannot stress enough that please do attend webinars. Those really help you, and there's no alternative to that. So there's no GMAT club or whatever which will give you that insight. And they have a very good email process in which they will also send you recent reminders to help you out. And if you can, please do attend in-person events as well. So India also has events which happen in different metro cities. So if you can go there and talk to different alumni or the adcoms, that really helps. So these will be some of the points which I think these are some of the do's and don'ts which I would want to share.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you so much, Rohan. This has been a pleasure, and I'm so glad that you took out some time for us today and shared all the insights that you did. If towards the end, if you have anything else to share, you can, or you're always welcome to tell it to me and I'll convey to my students, right? Perfect. Rohan, you have a wonderful day ahead, and thank you once again for your time and your insights.
Yeah, thanks, Tanmay. Thanks for doing this. I just want to share that, when I started this journey, I did not know what was in store for me. And but it takes around 1 year. The full 1 year you have to be deep inside the process. So anyone who is aspiring to do that from starting now, don't look too far ahead in the future, because otherwise you'll get bogged down. Just think about, okay, what do I want to do next, and then just keep on doing it. You never know where will you end up. I'd like to share something. In my case, I had given up completely on going to a school this year because all of my results till the time I got Kellogg were not good, and I was looking at what do I want to do next and where do I want to go. So yeah, you never know what life throws at you. So just keep at it, and please ask for help. If there's someone who wants to connect directly with me or wants help, I'm more than happy to do that.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That's very generous of you, Rohan. Thank you. Have a great day ahead.
Yeah, you too, Tanmay. Thanks for doing this. Yeah.